8. Buick Roadmaster hearse. It's unclear how exactly a heavily modified 1947 Buick Roadmaster Super 8 hearse ended up rusting away in a field in Greece. Built in Flint, Michigan during the heyday of America's industrial era, the vintage yet futuristic-looking 18-window vehicle had a Mercedes-Benz engine and tail and bumper lights from a 1956 Chevy. Photos of the unusual car have circulated online for years, but its history is obscure. It was for sale when images of it surrounded by overgrowth and seemingly forgotten first began to circulate. A car enthusiast from southern Italy named Dante Fontana bought the hearse with plans to restore it, and he runs a Facebook group where he provides regular updates on its progress. 7. Bugatti Royale. From 1927 to 1933, Bugatti manufactured a luxury car called the Type 41 Royale Kellner. The company's founder, Ettore Arco Isidoro Bugatti, designed it specifically for royalty and the ultra-wealthy. At around 7,000 pounds and nearly 21 feet, the Gothic-looking Royale was much longer and heavier than many modern cars. It handled well despite its size and was the largest and most luxurious car in the world at the time. Bugatti originally planned to have 25 Royales made, but only 7 ever rolled off the production line, and he was only able to sell 3 of them at the jaw-dropping price of $43,000, nearly $990,000 in today's currency. The Royale was so expensive that not even royals wanted to buy one. With the Great Depression in full swing, even the richest of the rich were watching their spending. Bugatti also failed to sell the car because of his notoriously difficult personality. He was known for being stubborn and conceited, and this didn't do him any favors when it came to selling his vehicles. Due to its price, the Royale wasn't destined to sell in high numbers to begin with. It also came with a 4-year waiting period for delivery of the final product. But Bugatti managed to shrink his target audience of consumers even more by being, well, himself. For example, he canceled King Zog of Albania's order for one of his cars because he didn't like how the leader ate. The Royale prototype was totaled in an accident. 5 of the 6 remaining Royales are in museums throughout the world, including the one Bugatti used as his personal vehicle. 6. Oldsmobile F-88. No one knows for sure how many Oldsmobile F-88s were made, but the number was no more than 4. It sat on a Chevy Corvette chassis, but the F-88 was its own unique vehicle. The 2-seat metallic gold concept car debuted at the General Motors Motorama exhibition at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City in 1954. It received an overwhelmingly popular reaction from the 2 million people who saw it, indicating that it would sell really well on the market. But the F-88 never reached the production stage, most likely because it would have hurt sales of the Chevy Corvette. At the time, Chevy and Oldsmobile were both divisions of GM. Since Chevy was GM's most profitable division, it's likely that the company ruled in its favor when it came to any attempts to stop the F-88 from being brought to market. While most dream cars were scrapped after the Motorama show, its designer, the famed Harley Earl, couldn't bear to see it happen to his prized creation, so he saved it and shipped it to someone whose identity remains a mystery to this day. The F-88 was passed from one owner to the next over the following years, dismantled and largely unappreciated for its value. Its exact movements leave room for questions, but blueprints and other documents show that it underwent a restoration while it was under the ownership of a man named Lon Kruger. In 2005, Discovery Communications owner John Hendricks bought the F-88 for $3.24 million, the most anyone has ever paid for a collector car at a Barrett-Jackson auction. It's on display at the Gateway Automobile Museum in Colorado. As far as the other 1, 2, or 3 F-88s that may or may not have existed go, many experts agree that there were at least 3 F-88s, including the original. But only the original still exists, while the fate of the others remains a mystery. 5. Peel P50. At just 54 inches, 41 inches, and 47 inches, the 3-wheeled Peel P50 is the smallest production car ever made. It was manufactured in Britain from 1962 to 1965 and was advertised as a city car with enough room for 1 person and a shopping bag. With a top speed of 28 miles per hour, it was ideal for running errands locally, but it was impractical for most other uses, including driving on a highway. The P-50 had no reverse gear, but it was equipped with a handle allowing the driver to maneuver it backward physically. And at just 130 pounds, it was easy enough for a person to move without any help. 50 of the original model were made, and 27 still exist today. In 1965 and 1966, Peel manufactured a version of the P-50 with enough room for a passenger, called the Trident. It was barely bigger than the original version and was marked for occasional use as a two-seater. Peel began manufacturing a modern version of the P-50 in 2011. The newer P-50s look similar to the originals on the outside, but have a fully functioning reverse gear and other features to ensure that they're road legal. Like its predecessor, it only goes up to 28 miles per hour. In 2021, a man named Alex Orchin completed the longest ever trip in a 2017 Peel P50. He began the 900-mile journey in Scotland and arrived in Land's End, Cornwall, England 3 weeks later. Because the car was far too small to sleep in, Orchin's friend tagged along in a camper van. Would you attempt a cross-country journey in a P50? Let us know in the comments below and hit that subscribe button while you're at it. 4. Amphicar. Launched in 1961 at the New York Auto Show, the Amphicar Model 770 was an amphibious car that drove on land and also functioned as a boat. It was manufactured in West Germany from 1961 to 1965 and was marketed until 1968. On the road, the Amphicar had a top speed of 70 miles per hour. It went no more than 7 miles per hour in the water. In accordance with Coast Guard requirements, it was equipped with navigation lights and a flag. The rear-wheel drive car was powered by a 4-speed manual transmission, which powered 2 reversible propellers while operating as a boat. For use in the water, the main gear lever would be left in neutral, while a secondary gear was used for engaging the propellers. While approaching a boat ramp, the driver would switch the car into first gear and drive it right out of the water. After being used as a boat, the Amphicar required greasing in 13 places, one of which required the removal of the back seat in order to access it. During its 5-year production run, a total of 3,878 Amphicars were made. It's still a hit today among vintage amphibious car enthusiasts who gather at various locations for swim-ins. Rides in the water are even offered as an attraction at the Disney Springs Entertainment Complex at Walt Disney World in Florida, which owns a fleet of 8 Amphicars. But at a price tag of $125, the experience isn't exactly cheap. 3. ISO BMW Isetta. Known as the world's first microcar, the Italian-designed ISO Isetta was just 7.5 feet, and 4.5 feet, it had a single door on the front of the vehicle and was nicknamed a bubble car for its egg-shaped body and windows. The Isetta took over 30 seconds for the Isetta to reach a speed of 31 miles per hour, and it had a top speed of just 47 miles per hour. Its fuel tank only held 3.4 gallons gas, and it had a fuel efficiency of around 42 miles per gallon. After experiencing initial success, the Isetta fell in popularity in Italy due to competition from Fiat, and because it was too close in price to regular cars, which offered much more room. ISO built around 1,000 units in the country before production ceased in 1955, and the same company manufactured the car in Spain until 1958. Between 1955 and 1962, BMW built 3 variants of the Isetta under license from ISO. The Isetta 250 and 300 both featured 2 seats, while the 600 had 4 seats. BMW offered the car in 45 different colors and was by far its biggest manufacturer. Variants were also produced in France, Argentina, Britain, and Brazil by various companies throughout the late 1950s and early 1960s. And while the Isetta was hugely popular for a short time, the excitement seemed to wear off relatively quickly in favor of full-size cars. 2. Dymaxion. Designed by American inventor Buckminster Fuller during the early years of the Great Depression, the Dymaxion car made its debut at Chicago's 1933-1934 World's Fair. The odd-looking Zeppelin-shaped vehicle had 2 wheels in the front and 1 in the back, and was intended as the basis for a vehicle that would one day be able to drive, fly, and navigate underwater. Its 8-cylinder engine was located in the rear, and it could accommodate up to 11 passengers. But the Dymaxion's design wasn't practical as an everyday car. It handled poorly in high winds and at high speeds, and was difficult to steer in general. The vehicle had a tendency to turn in the wind. Only specially trained drivers were allowed to get behind the wheel, and nobody was allowed to drive in windy or inclement weather of any kind. The Dymaxion received a lot of publicity, drawing the attention of auto manufacturers who were interested in Fuller's work. He was even offered a high-paying contract working for wealthy socialite and stockbroker Philip Pearson. But Fuller was already well-funded by the sizable inheritance he was living off of, and he never meant for the Dymaxion to be a commercial venture. In other words, he never necessarily intended to take it past the prototype stage. Only 3 were ever built. During the World's Fair in 1933, a politician accidentally crashed his car into the first Dymaxion prototype, causing it to fall over and killing the drivers while leaving the passengers injured. The politician moved his car away from the scene, and the Dymaxion was blamed for the deadly crash. After the accident, the prototype was repaired, only to be destroyed after catching fire in a refueling mishap. After finishing them and realizing how far off they were from being roadworthy, Fuller refocused his efforts on other projects. Prototype number 3 was scrapped during the 1950s. The second prototype was thought to be lost until 1968, when some engineering students discovered it on a farm, where it was being used as a chicken coop. They learned that the farmer who owned the property had paid $1 for it, and they ended up paying him $3,000 for the vehicle. Casino magnate Bill Harrah eventually acquired the last surviving Dymaxion as an addition to his exotic car collection, which eventually became the National Automobile Museum in Reno, Nevada. The Dymaxion has been restored and remains on display at the museum today. 1. 1911 Reeves Octoauto. Milton Reeves was an early pioneer of the American automotive industry who held more than 100 patents for his inventions, some of which were more popular than others. He's most remembered for his 20-foot-long, 8-wheeled Reeves Octoauto. Built in 1911, the truly bizarre-looking vehicle was a highly modified version of a 1910 Overland Roadster. At the time, roads were much rougher than they are today, and car technology was in its infancy, which meant that riders felt every bump and pothole in the road. Going for a drive was downright uncomfortable and could even be painful in some cases. By adding extra wheels to a Roadster, Reeves hoped to smooth out the ride by distributing the car's weight, and it worked incredibly well. But at a building cost of $3,200 each, or around $90,000 today, it was too expensive to realistically be put into production. In 1912, Reeves removed 2 wheels from the front of the Octoauto and rebranded it as the Sextoauto. But it was still incredibly expensive, and only a few were ever sold. It was the last car Reeves built prior to his death in 1925 at the age of 60. The Octoauto and Sextoauto were failures from a financial standpoint, but they were remarkable in their own right for the smooth ride they created in environments where a comfortable drive was unheard of. None are known to exist today, and the cars live on only in photographs. Thanks for watching. Have you ever seen one of these rare cars up close? Tell us in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you soon. Bye.